Happy Sunday. Talking about the art of consistency. So when you're consistent, you're consistent. And if you have that mindset that you're going to be consistent about something no matter what, then you can really achieve a lot of things that you think might not be achievable. So I'm going to do another head, torso figure today. Again, we draw what we like, and if you keep drawing the same thing over and over, you're going to get better at it. And yeah, you might get bored, and that's when you switch to something else. The cool thing about drawing is you can draw, once you know the basics, you can draw pretty much anything you can imagine. For me, it all comes back to anatomy and getting, well, you start with the face. I'm always talking about starting with the face, and then you move on to the body, and then you can essentially, once you understand basic anatomy, you can draw any figure in any pose you want. And once you get good at human anatomy, you'll kind of indirectly be good at animal anatomy, because it's the same skeleton, just enhanced proportions, if you will. Like the forearm bones of an animal, dog or cat, are essentially the same as humans, but elongated. So drawing for me is also a meditation. And so it's kind of serving a couple purposes. And because I've been getting more into teaching the past few years, it's also helping other people. You know, showing them these techniques. And just, you know, a lot of people say that I've helped them, you know, give themselves permission, as it were, to create. A lot of people feel that they don't have the permission to be an artist, and what that really truly means to the individual. So a lot of us want to be artists, and we either, well, we don't feel worthy to call ourselves artists, so we don't bother, or we have other excuses, right? That's the art of the excuse. I'm going to write that down. Whenever you get good ideas that you like, they could be facetious. The art of excuses. Oh, we're good at that, aren't we? Oh, I don't have the time to do the thing, or I don't have the talent, or I don't have this, or I don't have that, or I don't have the right art supplies, or I don't have the skills that so-and-so has. I can't draw like Alex. What the fuck? You know, all these excuses that we have as barriers to doing what we want. And then at the end of the day, we've loaded up so much on excuses. And, you know, there's a pride that comes with having a lot of excuses. But excuses are part of the blame game, right? Like, we blame other circumstances or other people for why we can't have the things we don't have. Well, let's just talk about desires for a second. What do you desire in your life? And it could be many things. And my challenge to anyone listening is pull back on your desires. curb your enthusiasm, damn it. Meaning focus on just a few things. Look, I know some of you kids are young, kids love the TikTok, and you have all this energy, and maybe it's misguided, it's misdirected. You know, I wish I had the energy of my youth to apply to the simplicity of what I want my life to be. I think the older you get, the more you desire simplicity. But for me, I've always wanted to draw, and I've always been grateful I've had that desire. And I wasn't always good. You know, this is probably the 50,000th face I've drawn. Probably not, but definitely in the thousands, which is a lot. It's a lot of faces. And why? Because I love drawing faces. So it sounds obvious. You find the thing you love to do, and then you fucking keep doing it. And then there's going to be the excuses of like, oh yeah, but I don't have the time to do the thing that I love. Well, then I guess you don't love it that much, right? And that could be harsh to hear that. But if you truly loved it, well, then you would make the time. And by making time is an interesting concept. We don't make any more time. Speaking of which, okay, it's 8:50 now in Texas. We just had daylight savings in the US. I don't know how much of the rest of the world does that, but it's a fucking ridiculous thing. It was good for back in the day during World War II when people needed more light to work, but nowadays it just fucks everything up. But hey, I'm not blaming anyone. What can you do about daylight savings time? Nothing. You got to go along with it. And it's kind of like roll with the punches kind of thing. And we know it's coming every year. But anyways, not to be blaming anyone for anything. So let's talk about, again, the art of consistency, the art of the excuse. Are you consistent with your excuses? Oh my God. You know, sometimes I am. But I think the difference between me now and me years ago, and that's the only person we should be comparing ourselves to, is ourselves at another time. And even that can be a little difficult, meaning if I'm comparing my old ass 50-year-old self to my 18-year-old self, like I don't have the energy that I did back then. And I'm reworking on it. But look, the older you get, the less energy you have, and the more time is kind of precious. And look, I was 18 yesterday. That's what it feels like. It really does. And when you guys get there, you're going to remember what I said. But you might be young and thinking, I'm never going to get old. I'm never going to die. And I remember thinking that way because you have all this energy. And, you know, we're not guaranteed any of the time that we get. So time becomes more of a precious commodity the older you get. And then you just start seeing the world differently. But when I was 18, I was doing this. I was drawing faces and I was dreaming of becoming a professional artist. I wasn't drawing faces this good. The 18-year-old me would love to be learning from me right now. Love that shit. And I would love his energy. So, you know, in this world of longevity and biohacking, you know, someone that is 50, 60, 70, even 80, they can get their energy back. And, you know, it's something I've been dedicating more of my life the past few years to my health. Because when you're healthy, you don't care about your health because you have your health. And then time goes on, you lose some of it, and you're like, damn, I need to watch that a bit more. So, you know, that all comes back to what you can call the 4 pillars of health, right? Diet, exercise, sleep, and what was the other one? So there's a new one though, a new pillar that I'm talking about, art as a pillar of health. And the science and all the data that's coming out on the benefits of engaging in the arts. When I say the arts, I mean all of them. Drawing and painting, sculpting, that's kind of like my expertise. That's like a small part of the spectrum of the arts. I'm talking about music, I'm talking about dance, I'm talking about creative writing, I'm talking about poetry. And, you know, if you are a cook, you are a culinary artist, right? If you choose to look at it that way. So I talk a lot about this book called Your Brain on Art, which has all of this amazing data on what the arts do to our brains and therefore our physicality and our emotions and our spirituality, if you take it that far. There's a new amazing book out. There's always a new and amazing book. This one's called The Art Cure. If you heard that noise, that is a peacock outside of my window. His name is Johnny Bird. And he's looking at his reflection and he thinks it's like he thinks it's a female. He's always on the hunt for ladies, you know. That's what that call is. So you might hear a loud cawing, and that's a peacock. Oh, the animals, they live such simple lives. It's just pure instinct and patience and living in the moment, because they don't conceive of the future like we do. If they did, they would be doing shit that we're doing, which is running around stressed all day, worrying about the future and regretting the past. That's a horrible way to live. But I'm going to blame society. This is what society has gotten us into. And I say the collective, the whole, you know. And it's our own individual responsibilities to work with this. And now we are in several wars that are most likely leading to World War III. I'm not a doom and gloom guy. I just see what's happening. Sure, you guys see it as well. It's hard not to notice at this point. And then you seeing all this exposed corruption and the world being run by these satanic pedophiles. It's like a real thing. It's not conspiracy anymore. So again, what do? We have to keep coming back to, you know, I speak to the artist. I speak to my mission. My heart is for the artist in me, the artist in you guys. And you might think, I'm not an artist, and I'm here to challenge that. Or, you know, I want you to engage in your creativity, whatever that looks like. Again, this is a small part of this. But it's a way to connect with, well, something else that you love. It's a way to connect with others, like I'm connecting with you guys right now, and I'll download this video, make another video out of it, post it online. But I think what people really want these days is human to human connection. You know, part of the reason I love drawing humans is for that kind of surrogate connection. And, you know, there's a magic to drawing every time. It really doesn't get old. I might feel that, I don't feel like drawing, but once you get in the flow state, and if any of you draw, hopefully you're just drawing along while I'm ranting here. Or maybe you just like to watch, and that's cool. I talk about Bob Ross a lot. There he is, right here. He's always with me. Like, there's something so special about Bob Ross, just about watching him. Like, I don't do oil painting. I've never done oil painting. It kind of terrifies me, actually, because there's a lot involved in oil painting. And so I just like watching him do it. And I've learned tips from him that don't really apply to oil painting. They just apply to other forms of art that I'm doing. But what I've really learned from him is the art of patience and the art of calm and the art of joy, right? Like Bob would always say, every day is a good day when you paint. Like for me, every day is a good day when I draw. And so I used to be a professional artist. Some of you guys know I worked on The Simpsons for 15 years, and then I worked for Marvel and Disney and Avengers and Spider-Man and all the superheroes. Not Batman, though. I'd love to work on a Batman movie. But I kind of got it out of my system. Like, I'm done with the entertainment industry. But I help other artists get jobs in the entertainment industry if they want. I also help artists have gallery shows. I help artists create graphic novels. I help artists do the things that I've already done. Because I've done them, I know how to get there. So if you're interested in learning art, you can just DM me directly, or you can go to my school community, which is free. Link is in my bio, but don't worry about that right now. So the art of consistency, right? When you see people online that are consistent, well, it can bring up a few emotions of like, damn, I wish I was consistent. And the more real people get, the more honest they get. Like, I'll be honest, like, consistency can really suck at times. So you have to do it despite your feelings. If you just completely live on feelings alone, well, most people will not get the things done that they want to get done. I guarantee you that most people, these are all of celebrities or athletes or people you admire, but you just get out there anyway, and sometimes no one's watching, and that's really hard. Like when you're doing shit alone and you're feeling like shit, that's a tough place to be. And yet everyone who's ever achieved anything great has been in that situation a lot. Where it's like you feel no one's watching, no one cares, no one gives a shit about me, no one will ever give a shit about me. Like all these thoughts come in, right? But my advice to you, anyone listening, is you're not your thoughts. You have thoughts. And you can look at them as potentially unpleasant house guests. And then you think, fuck, get the fuck out of my house. But remember, a thought is a combination of many things, right? It's partly program. Like our brains and our minds kind of work on these programs. Meaning the more input you put in, the more it's going to kind of repeat. And from the ages of 0 to 7, we are stamped with some pretty intense programming. You know, there's an old saying, you know, show me the boy at 7 years old and I'll show you the man. So anything that happened to you from 0 to 7. So for me, I've had some crazy shit happen to me from 0 to 7 that, you know, a lot of it I don't even know consciously, but the subconscious records everything and the body keeps the score. So it's all contained in the body and the subconscious. And, you know, I used to think I'm running the show, but man, your conscious mind is like 5% of the totality of your, what we'll call the small s self. That's your ego, right? That's who you think you are. And so 95% of this thing is running the show. And you can kind of get to the heart of it, as it were, by learning what happened to you as a child. And for some of us, we'll never know. So when I was a child, I experienced a lot of trauma that I don't remember. And yet I know it through stories from family members. And the older I got, the more I learned about it, and the more it was like confirmed, and the more I realized, damn, like I've been through some really fucked up shit. And again, not to use that as an excuse, right? Because many people hide behind their excuses of trauma, of like, I am this way because of so-and-so. I am this way because of my parents. I am this way because of my siblings or that bully at school. And so fuck the world and I get to be an asshole. And many people live their lives like that. It's miserable. So, there's another way, which is, well, acknowledging what you've been through and having compassion for yourself and love for your past self. Because these parts of us, our younger selves, our inner children, like they're stuck in those traumas, literally in the body, they're stuck. And so there are such therapies called internal family systems and cognitive behavioral therapy. There's all these different therapies. There's shadow work. It can get a bit overwhelming. So sometimes it's easier to just be like, fuck all that. I'm gonna live according to my instincts and feelings. And then you wonder why things don't turn out the way you want. You wonder why things might be so fucked up in your life. And then that's where the blame comes in and it starts the loop. I lived in that loop for many years. I was just blaming everyone else for everything that I felt was wrong in my life. And I would think, if they only just cleaned up their act, things would be great, because I'm good. Oh, the delusions that we tell ourselves. It's wild. So one of the best ways to deal with our shit is looking at it. And that is so difficult. It's so difficult. So, I draw a lot of these meditative characters who are, they're in a meditative state. They almost look like they could be dreaming, right? And, the eyes look a little different in, say, dream versus meditation, right? When you're dreaming, you're unconscious and you're in another world. And you're experiencing a whole other reality, which you feel is real. It's quite fascinating. Curious how many of you guys do dream interpretation. So last night I had a dream where I was encountering someone who was growing apple trees out in their front sidewalk. And they were like selling the apples. And there was this feeling of, they were kind of ripping people off. But that's what happens. People, especially with nature, they take something that is freely given and then they commoditize it, right? But they're making it for our convenience, right? Are you going to grow your own apple tree? Are you going to like cultivate it? But my interpretation of that was not about greed or anything. It was about how I interpreted it. What my subconscious was trying to tell me was that there is a cultivating of creativity. How do we cultivate our creativity? Like we were to cultivate an apple tree. See, this is the cool thing about dream interpretation. People can tell you all day long what your dreams meant, but they don't know your subconscious. They don't know what you've been through. It's up to you to interpret it. And you can go to a professional Jungian analyst who can really help you interpret your dreams and give you really great insight. But at the end of the day, it's up for you to interpret your dreams. So I woke up and I wrote all that down, cultivating your creativity like you were to cultivate a tree. And creativity is almost like a tree in that it has different parts. It has the seed, right, which is the seed of the idea. And then ultimately becoming the trunk, right? Which is like the core foundation of the idea. And then it has the branches, the possibilities of the idea, and then the leaves, and then the fruit, right? So you can really interpret dreams honestly in the beginning, however the fuck you want. Don't let anyone tell you what your dreams mean. All these books on dream interpretation of like, oh, this means this and this means this. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Like, this is a highly subjective individual experience based off your own life. And yes, the collective consciousness as well, which is why these people are able to write these books and say, this is what this dream means. And this, I believe there is some truth to that, but don't rely entirely on that. Like, this is your experience. Like, don't let anyone else tell you what your life means to you. This is part of the problem with AI, as fascinating as it is to have, you know, a reasoning machine tell you what's going on in your life, which can be useful sometimes, can be enlightening to some degree. But what's really important is what you do with that information. Okay, so again, a common theme in these drawings, to kind of bring it back to the drawing, is this rising of energy through the body. Plus, I just think it looks cool. Seriously. Sometimes you just want to draw what looks cool. Like, I can do a double helix kind of vibe going up, and that's hinting at not only DNA structure, but they become like these vertical eyes as well. A concept that I've been engaging in lately is the eye of the heart, which is an old mystical spiritual teaching from one of the excluded gospels of the Bible, or wasn't even in the Bible, but it was the Gospel of Mary, supposedly written by Mary Magdalene, who was supposedly the closest person to Jesus to really understand his teachings. But the early church wasn't going to have any woman be any kind of authority. But women were highly involved in the early church. And this is shown in all of the early writings that predated the Gospels, right? It's a fascinating subject. I love talking about it. I am not a Christian, but I do follow the teachings of Jesus more in the Gnostic sense, which is way more mystical and way stranger than a lot of things you find in the canonical Gospels, which is our standard Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And it's a whole rabbit hole. But the eye of the heart, if we could learn to really have the heart lead, and this is, again, is very difficult for a lot of people whose hearts have been broken, or you might think, how do I do that? I can lead intellectually with my brain, but when Jesus talks about the eye of the heart, he's talking about this word called nous, N-O-U-S, which is translated in Greek as mind, but it's not the mind that we think of associated with our intellect. It's translated as eye of the heart, like on an even deeper level. And Jesus was talking about, this is how you see God, this is how you see humanity, through this eye, which is not an egoic eye. It is a we are all one kind of eye, you know, which is what all great faiths and great spiritual teachers talk about, is the unity of humanity. So a big part of why we have wars and why we have strife is because it is very I related. I am right, or my people are right and my people were wronged, and so this is retribution for my people, right? You just see it everywhere. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. But we all know about ego, right? That the ego is it's a terrible master, but it's a good servant. A lot of this is training. Like, what the fuck are we doing here as human beings? A lot of people talk about simulation theory. I'm not against that either. What is a simulation? It's a training ground. For what? Right? Always ask for what, right? Always go deeper. I think this is also what Jesus was talking about when he's like, you know, through the eyes of children, you see the kingdom of heaven, right? Well, what do children do naturally? Besides being highly creative and being highly playful and all of these amazing, wild things, they are inquisitive. They ask questions. They're curious as fuck. You know, kids always ask, like, why? Right? So use your brain or your mind. You know, again, when we think of mind, we think of brain. But nous, the eye of the heart, takes it a bit deeper. It's like it's bridging the two, right? Jesus said when someone asked him, what's the greatest commandment? He said, to love God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. So heart, soul, strength, right? Mind. He's basically saying use everything you have to love God. And what is God, right? That's a whole other question. He definitely wasn't talking about the God of the Old Testament, Yahweh. He was talking about the supreme creator of the entire system, who he called the Father. Yahweh is not the Father. Sorry to disappoint you. Yahweh is a vengeful tyrant of a deity. The Gnostic Gospels really get into a lot of who Yahweh was in the Old Testament. If you know that classic story of the Garden of Eden, you know, the God that was there who kicked them out of the garden and was jealous. And he said, I'm a jealous God, and there is no other gods before me. It's very, talk about ego. Anyways, I know I went down a lot of rabbit holes. And I appreciate you guys being here. Again, consistency, the art of consistency. How you will ever get anything done in life is through consistency. I mean, anything worthwhile, I guess. I mean, you can do something once and be okay with it, and that's great, right? But I'm talking about the thing that you love. The thing that you love that you're avoiding. Or, even more difficult to swallow, is the thing that you're avoiding that needs attention, which essentially is your inner world. It's you know what you need to look at. Do you need to go to the dentist? Do you need to do your taxes? Right? I'm talking about this mundane shit that is holding you back. You know, these things that they're kind of like open loops that are draining our energy. Who's that person you need to call back? Like today, or text back. Like, these aren't fun things. I'm not talking about fun things. I'm talking about these things that are just kind of eating away at our mind and our heart, the things that we kind of know we need to do in the moment, soon. Otherwise, they'll just keep gnawing away at you. You know, for years I've been going through this struggle of working on this educational system for artists called Infinite Artist. And my inner artist was like, no, we're not done making art. And so it was this battle of like, okay, my inner artist thinks if I go all in on teaching that we're not going to create art anymore. And I think it's a ridiculous idea, but it kind of gnaws away at me in certain ways. And it's totally ridiculous, but it's deeply subconscious because the artist in me has been running the show my entire life. And for that part of me, which is a very strong part of me, does not want to give up its throne. Like if you think we are just one entity, you are greatly deluded. I used to think that. Oh, I'm just one entity. I'm in control. Well, who is the I if that I keeps changing over time? So this is all the more importance for stillness, silence, meditation, things that a lot of us dread, in order to just observe. Like, you observe the voices in your head. What are those voices? Where are they coming from? They're coming from the past. They're coming from conditioning. This all comes back to the programming that I was talking about earlier. There are voices from your family, from your mother, your father, your friends, your heroes, your villains, movies, songs. Who is the you? Who is the I that's happening to? That is hearing the voices, that is seeing the visions. Like, more importantly, what is that? It allows you to create a space in between you and what you think is you, which is your thoughts. Thoughts can be very useful if they're useful, but even the bad ones can be enlightening to some degree. You don't have to identify with them. All right, I think that's about 20 minutes. I know I've been doing these, saying these are 20 minutes on art, but I didn't say that today because it's Sunday and sometimes we don't want to be so constricted. But that is what I find has been very useful and helpful for me, is to time block things, especially in shorter time frames, but that's just where I'm at these days. There's something about long drawn out things that doesn't sound appealing to me anymore. And honestly, I just cannot physically do them at the moment. I know the word can't it's not a great word. I just choose not to do that. And there's many reasons, but the 20-minute time block, if you create and apply that to art, you create 20 minutes of art a day, whatever that looks like for you, you will improve your health, you will improve your relationship to yourself, you will improve everything in your life. Like, this is measured, this is science-backed. The book Your Brain on Art and the book The Art Cure are all about the science behind what it means to engage in the healing power of the arts. Again, when I say the arts, I mean all of the arts. What's your favorite music, right? Do you like to dance? Do you like to sing? If you like to sing and you practice a lot of it, you will get better at breathing. If you're better at breathing, you might exercise more. If you exercise more, you're going to be healthy. See, there's a cascading effect. Like for me, creating a drawing like this once a day, it fulfills the need of the inner artist who didn't want to give up control of the kingdom. But making art like this and speaking about the healing power of art, it's fulfilling two needs at once. That is the art of efficiency. Do I have room to put on this? I'm going to write one more. See, there's arts of everything. And so the question of, well, what is art? Art is subjective first and foremost. No one can tell you what it is, only you can. And what it means to you is completely different to what it means to everyone else. So if you can find ways to make art and exercise, or make art and play with friends, or make art and do this and that, right? You are doubling the impact of it, which is great. And sometimes you just want to make art and that is it. And if you do it because you love it, then that is the true win. For me, I've just spent so much time making art in a cave, right, for years. And a lot of artists do that. And it can be seen as a form of resistance or reclusivity, an excuse, as it were, another excuse to like not deal with humanity, especially in this today's world where, look, there's a lot of great people out there and there's a lot of horrors out there. And we just see it everywhere. Like, I'll open up TikTok to do this thing, and yeah, I do follow a few people that are, war analysts, and that's what I just first come to when I'm on TikTok. And it's like, why the fuck am I following these people? And then I get into this inner dialogue of like, well, I need to know what's going on in the world, and if a missile is coming towards my house, I need to know. But the amount of fear that puts in me and then, the collective, it's kind of ridiculous. But I think it's important to stay informed to some degrees. Look, you can time block your news consumption. 20 minutes is kind of a lot, but hey, if you do that and you train yourself, sometimes you just got to train yourself like an animal. That's what Joe Dispenza talks about. He's like, you got to treat yourself like a dog sometimes and be like, sit. You're going to sit and you're going to meditate and you're going to check all your emails and your news and your Instagram after. So just sit. So funny. True though. We have to train ourselves, especially in this age of distraction. It's very easy to be distracted by so many things. And at the end of the day, then we'll feel guilty for not having accomplished what we wanted to do. And then we say to ourselves, I'll be better tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and we do the same shit again. Why? Because we programmed ourselves from the day before. So how do you break the program? Oh my God, that's a whole other conversation. But it comes down to the subconscious work. There's plenty of information, plenty of videos. You might think, where the hell do I start with all this? Well, you start with yourself, and you just have to get really honest with yourself. First of all, about what you want to do versus what your parents want you to do or what your friends want you to do. And you really have to spend a lot of time alone in self-dialogue. Again, this is the difficult part of all this, is this being with yourself. Dispenza has a great book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. The title says it all. Like, we are habitually trained to essentially be a version of ourselves that we might not agree with. Who is not agreeing? Really question what is going on here. If you are yourself and you are in the habit of being yourself, well, who's in disagreement with that? What is in disagreement with that? Some part of you. That's what needs to be analyzed and have a dialogue with. This is what Carl Jung did so much work on. The point is, you have to be okay with being alone for long periods of time. That is terrifying to a lot of people. Terrifying. Like, being alone, fuck that. I can't be alone. Like, I always need something. I always need a distraction. Here's a challenge for you guys. Just notice how many times you check your phone every day. And, I do it too, and it feels like something's taking over, and it's really disturbing. Like I'll have a need to check my phone, and there's only a few places I'll go, but still, it's always the same again. And then I'll have this thought of like, I know I'm checking my phone. I know I'm going to Instagram. Like I know I'm going to TikTok. I know I'm going to school.com. Like I know I'm going to check the news. Like, and I tell myself, I know I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And it's like, there's another part of you that's like feeding off of the energy that you get from coming to these sites on your phone, right? The phone is a portal to just different spaces that are going to allow you to engage in different kinds of energy within. And I'm talking literal energy. Like we get dopamine hits from checking the news, right? Because maybe there's a part of us that feels that, hey, my life is not so bad if I look at the news because people are suffering. It's a very, dark and negative way, but I know I'm guilty of that. So just becoming aware, and don't judge yourself for all this. That's the next part. So become aware, don't judge, love yourself, and then get back to the question, what do I love? And can I combine that with service? It could be, helping your grandma out or helping a friend out who needs some kind of help, helping them move. I'm going to go help my friend paint his maloka today. A maloka is a ceremony room. And we're not painting it with cool shit. It's literal house paint. But then again, I think, okay, there's a part of me that's like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to give him an excuse that I need to work on my school, or I need to work on this commission. And it's like, yeah, but he needs help, and he's my good friend, and I can look at it like a workout, right? So you start, again, the art of efficiency, combining different things, reframing the narrative, telling a different story about what it is you're about to do, right? And I'll leave you guys with this. No more like, I have to do shit. From now on, you say to yourself, I get to do this. And it can be the most like mundane, annoying thing. And still change the wording. I get to do this fucking mundane thing so that I can learn a bit more about how I can respond in the world, right? I get to do this thing that is boring as fuck because it's going to teach me patience. I get to. So if you change I have to I get to, and train yourself to do that, that will change how you feel about the world, and then it'll change your life. Seriously. All right. Much love to y'all. I will see you guys when I see you. I know I've been, again, consistency. I keep talking about that. Whether I keep doing these here or switch over to Instagram. And then ultimately it all goes back to my school community in the end. So you can join that right now. Link is in my bio. It's a free community. Come hang out with artists. And I will see you guys here most likely tomorrow.